Natural Resource Measurements Camp is held twice each summer at the University of Montana College of Forestry and Conservation's Lubrecht Experimental Forest. The forest is located 30 miles east of Missoula on Highway 200, a short 45-minute drive from campus. The camp is designed to provide each student with fundamental theory and a lot of real-world experience in the practical application of modern methods of multi-resource measurement and evaluation. Over a 2-week period, starting with a vegetation identification module and continuing with a 2-day module of orienteering with map, air photo, compass, and GPS, the instruction progresses through the principal forest resources of timber, recreation, soils, wildlife, insects and diseases, and water. Using the experimental forest as a base, exercises involving group and individual activity are conducted in a natural setting with experienced professional practitioners as instructors. Students learn from a team of people who use these skills for their livelihood. When they have completed camp, students possess the skills needed in their summer field jobs as well as the rest of their careers. The timber production module involves harvest, scaling, and primary utilization of trees chosen by the students. Working in crews of 3, chainsaw use and safety instruction is followed by felling and bucking exercises.
That's it. Nice cut.
Some results are good. Some results not so good. Learning, however, is always taking place. The students then learn how to scale logs as well as the methods used to convert logs to marketable lumber products.
We got 14 inches up here. What's the tape?
This blade is fixed relative to the bottom of this blade so that you get a nice square cut. This upper saw travels up and down on a shaft that you control back here. That controls the width. You'll have that mark on the end of it for about 2 feet, maybe 3 feet. Right in there. What do you got? You got 8 inches there?
Just under 8.
Oh, we'll take an 8. Following sawing, mill tally is compared to log scale for the determination of lumber recovery factor and overrun percentage. The tree growth analysis module is designed to teach students the relationships of a tree's stem growth and the site it grows in. Beginning with choosing a tree whose form is typical of that of the average tree on the sites, the students perform a gross height and diameter estimate, fell the tree, and then remove cross-section discs. With these discs, they will then perform an analysis of the tree's height and diameter growth through its entire life. Results are presented in a graphic format. Besides coming away with an understanding of how a tree grows, students have an increased awareness of the importance of planning and teamwork in successful enterprises. And in addition, they all get experience in using the tools of the trade in the business of cutting the tree and also preparing the sections for observation. Now, as you notice here, it goes all the way up. There's about 40 discs, it seems like. By this afternoon, it'll seem like there's 100. And we even keep the very tip, because this fell out of 4 foot and there was something above it. So place a piece of masking tape where it runs from the pit all the way to the bark, both directions. Take a scale that you're using for your maps, marked off in tenths of an inch. Measure from outside of the bark to outside of the bark. That's the first column where it says DOB, diameter outside bark.
See, these guys are doing it right. They were shooting a straight line and they've offset and come back. And the group going down the right-hand side of the lake, they're not doing what they're supposed to. Started at the dam.
Yeah.
But didn't you have to come? You don't really have your point or
The same 3-person crews learn how to operate a variety of tools for conducting both fixed and variable radius plot sampling. Because they're applicable for the evaluation of all types of natural resources, students from all natural resource management majors will use these theories and techniques in their career.
In this case, students conducted a timber cruise. That timber cruise had plot locations. Those plot locations were recorded with a GPS receiver. Then those points were downloaded to a GIS, and students could visually see how well they were doing with their orienteering skills. In some cases, students were dead on, and in other cases, they were way off.
Lubrecht Forest started its life as a lumber production camp in the 1910-1920 era, and today the mess hall, like it was then, is a focal point after a hard day in the woods. After dinner and before the evening academic help session, group or individual recreation is encouraged. Some choose a walk by themselves in the woods or a trip to an orienteering course for practice, while others choose group activities.
Well, no, look at this one.
Karen's makes some good boots.
You can literally pull that one all the way back.
They keep spending for the quality, though.
Get the point out of it. You're reaching. Your form shows.
Following the evening session, relaxing around the fire allows students time away from an intense rush of new information. Sleep is rarely hard to come by at the end of the day at measurements camp.
Orienteering is concerned with acquiring coordinates of unknown locations or traveling to locations whose coordinates you know. We also can do this kind of orienteering on the ground, or we can do it using maps, or we can do it using aerial photographs.
We need to head that way.
Go to the inside corner on the other side.
Yeah.
How about doing it from in here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm straight line to here. You do it?
The dead tree on the left.
Once those skills are learned during the second day, students go out on a traverse, so they will encounter all kinds of obstacles on the way that they have to deal with in order to run around those traverses. And then they're required to create a map.
Yeah, here you measured 47 right over the edge, correct?
Yes.
All right, and 6.22 inches. What'd you get? You will then enter those coordinates in degrees, minutes, decimal minutes into your GPS receiver, set up the way we have been using it, except for the map data. And which map data will you have the GPS set to?
Net 27 kilometers.
Don't be rounding off to the nearest degree, okay? Because we want to be able to find you somewhere between here and the Canadian border.
Every single form of life that we know that exists in the universe is made up of nothing but unique combinations of those 4 building blocks of life. You can buy them. And so you do that. So you buy them. And then you dump them in, and then you're actually synthesizing DNA. So this pad was optimized to sample for Canada lynx. And so the bait is a mixture of, or a combination of, beaver castor and other stuff. And it's actually not as bad as you might think. Can you smell the wafting scent coming over to you? You're kind of getting an urge to rub?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you got an urge to scratch?
That's got enough hair.
That's pretty much it. So it's just kind of a funny thing because on the one hand, it's about as non-high tech as you can imagine. I mean, a pie pan and a piece of carpet and some nails. On the other hand, it's about as high tech as you can imagine because it includes polymerase chain reaction. And so telemetry does have a lot of benefits. The technology has gotten amazing like anything else. They're GPS collars, so they have the equivalent of your GPS unit that you have that are embedded within. And if we find a snowshoe hare collar up in a tree,
Raptor.
yeah, then we can conclude that it was some sort of raptor. We'll find them sometimes just ripped to complete shred, just torn to bits. And that's usually indicative of a mammal predator because mammals will tend to chew up the whole hair, eat the whole thing. And now, if you just walk, you'll hear it. It'll fade. If you just go different directions, it'll get louder and less loud. All right.
So we spend a lot of time in the morning going out and we listen to birds, and then we do the point count together, and then we see the birds and find out how far they are.
Oh, all right.
And so we standardize with each other. So for an index, you're using anything that you think is correlated with abundance without correction for the probability of detecting the animal.
It's 5:20 a.m. There's birds everywhere. It's a crazy bird environment. There's all different species, all hollering at the top of their lungs. It's remarkable.
You don't want to hear them?
Struggle with wilderness turned Europeans into Americans. And make no mistake about it, Americans are unique. We really are. If it was surviving in wilderness that shaped the American character, then experiencing the wilderness with a small w is what keeps that character alive. Keeps that character in our culture. And who does that? You folks.
I want you to work in your teams, and the first thing I want you to do is to draw a schematic of this recreation site. Now, I think you said the scenery doesn't amount to anything. My God, folks, you know, I mean, there's the Bob Marshall. We saw an eagle go over. The scenery really does amount to something, but not if you're an extremist.
Right, not compared to.
That's not death chemist. That's chemist. That's edible.
It's edible. I'm still not gonna eat it.
The bulb is. If you dig down and get the bulb, that's
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Oh yeah, it's gonna be me that falls.
There are fascinating stories about your predecessors that brought you to where you are today, and it's worth your digging into. As you get into your careers and read more and more history for the fun of it, keep that in mind because it's there.
The two biggest problems we have in forestry, supposedly, are compaction and lack of organic matter. That's something you need to know. Compaction and lack of organic matter. Silviculturalists would disagree with you, fire people would disagree, but soil scientists would probably agree. Those are the three soil separates that we talk about: sand, silt, and clay. Clay has a negative charge, and that's important to know. Negative electrical charge. The funny thing is, most of the stuff we talk about in soils has to do with electrons and electricity. A double-ringed infiltrometer measures the rate of water infiltration into the soil, which tells us how porous or compact a soil might be. When you freeze and thaw a soil or wet and dry it, it shrinks and expands. And that shrinking and expanding causes the soil to aggregate, to get cracks in it, and the soil to take in water better. There's three ways, I think, maybe I can think of more, to get rid of compaction. Three ways. One is mechanical means, like Lubrecht tries to do once in a while with their gizmos. The other is biologic activity, and that just means root penetration, insects, anything biological. And the third way is freeze-thaw or wet-dry.
Okay, it takes several weeks of practice usually for people to get really good at figuring out, is that a thick branch or is it a witch's broom? Mistletoe plant.
That's ugly.
You can see it's not dark green, so it doesn't really photosynthesize, and so can't make its own sugars and food like other plants. And so they're called ballista seeds because they shoot out like a cannon. Grab one of these, aim it at yourself, and squeeze. Oh, did you see that? Bounced off and hit him in the head. There's a lot of force going on in here. And then Dendroctonus ponderosi, which is our mountain pine beetle. This is a real big tree killer. This one kills more trees in North America than probably any other bark beetle. And it's killing a lot of trees around Montana right now. And if there's enough beetles that come in to overcome the tree, then they win, and they go in and they develop their young under the bark after they kill the tree. If they don't pull in enough beetles, or if the tree's really strong, then the tree will kill them, and the beetles lose, and the tree survives. You can see these blobs of pitch all over the tree. Everywhere you see one of those is where a pair of beetles has bored in. So when I was talking about earlier that they mass attack the tree, this is what I was talking about. So basically when we chop into this tree and look under the bark, my guess is we're going to find mountain pine beetle.
One of the things we teach is how to do a stream cross-section. We will use this to calculate flow and to look at the shape of the stream. We will first determine bank full, which is the level that a flood will reach about every 1.5 years. To determine bank full, you can use some natural characteristics like change in slope or change in vegetation, and see if maybe the bed material changes, like from cobble to soil or to sand or something like that. That looks good to me. I can tell that water flows up here pretty regularly, and there's kind of, you can see another bank right here. And then over here, we're looking at basically the bottom of the grass slide. Well, not the moss, because the moss can survive underwater pretty well. And then after you have bank full on either side, you can use a level to see if they're the same. By taking depth measurements along this tape, we can determine the shape and the area of the stream cross-section.
3, 2, 1, go!
One of the ways you can measure velocity in a stream is by using an orange as a simple float and timing how long it takes to cross a certain distance.
11 seconds.
That's 3!
The pygmy meter is a more refined way to measure bank full. For each revolution of the pygmy meter, a signal is sent to the readout display, which tells the velocity of the stream at that point. Several readings are taken at specific depths along the cross-section to determine the best estimate of stream velocity and flow.
Start at 0 peak per second. You start it, and it'll actually take all the readings for you. So I'm going to show you how to set this thing up, and then we'll take different measurements.
The final exam is held on the last day of camp.
Hey, do you understand this stuff?
I'm trying to get it. I understand most of them.
You're writing it down.
Yeah. We got a test tomorrow, so I'm going to take these back and punch but theoretical numbers in and see if I can get a good answer.
Easy numbers like 3, 4, 5?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I'm going to program them into my calculator so I don't have to write these on paper.
You're that smart?
I had to do it in high school.
The exam is made up of a series of stations that the student crews travel to using map, compass, and GPS skills.
Is that 3A checking in?
3A.
Okay, we're starting. Crew 2, this is your sheet.
Station 3, do you copy?
Doing stuff.
Each station emphasizes a different aspect of resources measurements. The final grade is made up of a composite of scores from the daily quizzes and the final exam.
Deviation of greater than 4.5, use the limiting distance tables to provide to check the borderline area trees. What is the BA acre of large live trees by species?
4 is coming to station 3A.
Natural Resource Measurements Camp is experiential learning. Future resource managers are learning the fundamental skills required throughout their career, and more importantly, learn the methods used to provide data for the decision-making process that will show effects for generations. Learning by doing provides students the skills and attitudes needed to successfully fulfill the requirements society places on natural resource managers.